62% of Americans check their bank balance at least once a week. 36% check it every single day. And yet, 59% of Americans still can't cover a $1,000 emergency. So checking your balance clearly isn't making you richer. What if it's actually making you poorer?
This video is not about budgeting. It's not about cutting lattes. It's about something nobody in personal finance talks about. The psychological trap built directly into the design of your banking app, and what happens to your finances when you step out of it.
78% of Americans now use mobile banking apps every week. That's the highest number ever recorded. And those same users, according to a separate Bankrate survey, report being more anxious about their money than at any point in the last decade. More access, more anxiety. Is that a coincidence? Here's what researchers found. A 2025 published study introduced a concept called spendception, the psychological detachment from money that happens when you use digital payments and banking apps. When you can't physically feel money leaving your hands, your brain stops treating it as real loss. You spend more, you feel less. Researchers call this the pain of paying. Cash creates it, apps destroy it. When money is invisible, spending becomes automatic. And automatic spending is exactly what every bank, every retailer, and every app company is banking on, literally. And here's the number that should stop you cold. The average American spent $282 per month on impulse purchases in 2024. That's $3,381 per year. More than $3,000 a year on things that were not on any list, not planned, and not necessary. Just triggered. Let's go inside the banking app. Not to check your balance, but to understand the design decisions that were made by very smart, very well-paid people, specifically to keep you opening it as often as possible. Feature number 1, push notifications. Banks send you alerts for every single transaction, instantly. The stated reason is security. The real reason? Every notification is a reason to open the app, and every app open is a chance to upsell you, show you a loan offer, remind you of a credit card upgrade. Feature number 2, spending categories with colorful charts. These pie charts and bar graphs look like powerful financial tools. But research from the Behavioral Economics Institute found that budget tracking apps can actually increase spending, especially at the end of a budget period when users see they have money left. Feature number 3, cashback and rewards points. Every major bank sells this as a benefit to you. But cashback only exists because banks and credit card companies earn far more from merchant fees and interest charges than they ever pay out in rewards. The reward is a hook. Your spending habit is the fish. Feature number 4, the balance display itself. Seeing your balance, whether it's high or low, triggers a psychological response. A high balance makes you feel rich and loosens your spending restraint. A low balance causes anxiety that studies show actually leads to worse financial decisions, not better ones. And feature number 5, the most insidious one. Financial insights powered by AI. Your bank analyzes your spending patterns and uses them to time offers perfectly. They know you just bought something expensive, which means you might have buyer's remorse. Perfect time to show you a refinancing offer. They know your payday, which means they know exactly when you feel flush enough to say yes to an upgrade. Now let's talk about something deeper. 87% of Americans experience financial stress at least once a week, and 54% feel it 3 or more days a week. That's not a financial crisis. That's a mental health crisis. And the banking app sits right at the center of it. Here's a pattern financial therapists have named financial hypervigilance. You check your balance compulsively, not to make a decision, but for a temporary spike of relief, just to confirm nothing catastrophic has happened. It's the same psychological loop as checking social media for likes. Dopamine, anxiety, check again. 42% of Americans say they avoid looking at their bank balance because they fear what they'll see. Nearly half of all Americans are terrified of their own financial data. 51% of millennials and 49% of Gen Z have literally shielded their eyes from their account balance. Not metaphorically, actually looked away. And here's the cruel twist. Avoidance makes everything worse. When you look away from your finances, nothing actually gets better. The debt grows. The subscriptions keep charging. The problem compounds. And then, when you finally look, it's worse than if you had looked last month. The avoidance cycle is a wealth destruction machine. So we've identified two broken relationships with the banking app. Type 1. The hypervigilant checker who opens the app 10 times a day, lives in constant low-grade anxiety, makes emotional spending decisions, and never actually improves their finances. Type 2. The avoider who never opens the app, lets problems silently compound, and gets blindsided by the consequences. Neither approach works, and both are enabled by the app being in your pocket, available, demanding attention 24/7. What if removing the app entirely breaks both loops at once? What if stepping away from the tool is actually the responsible financial move? Let me be very clear about what delete the banking app actually means in practice, and what it doesn't mean. It does not mean ignoring your finances. It does not mean burying your head in the sand. It means replacing reactive, anxiety-driven checking with scheduled, intentional financial reviews. Change number 1, and people who have done this report this universally. The financial anxiety drops within 72 hours. When the app isn't in your pocket triggering you, the low-grade hum of money stress quiets. You stop having micro-anxiety spikes every time your phone buzzes. Your baseline stress level goes down. Change number 2. You become intentional about spending instead of reactive. When the app is on your phone, every purchase is disconnected from your financial picture. You swipe, you tap, you spend. When you have to wait until your scheduled review to see the damage, your brain starts running a mental ledger. You start asking, do I actually want this? Before you spend, not after. And the numbers back this up. Research on the pain of paying consistently shows that when people experience friction before spending, any friction, they spend less. Deleting the app reintroduces friction. It doesn't delete your ability to manage money, it just slows down the thoughtless spending. Change number 3. You stop competing with yourself and your balance. People with banking apps open often get into a strange behavioral loop where they treat their checking account balance like a game score. A higher number feels like winning. A lower number feels like losing. You start making decisions based on the score, not based on your actual financial goals. Without the app constantly displaying the quote-unquote score, you start thinking in terms of goals instead of balances. Is my emergency fund growing? Is my debt going down? Am I on track for the thing I actually care about? Goals-based thinking is how wealthy people manage money. Balance watching is how anxious people manage money. Let's go back to that $3,381 impulse spending number. Because here's what the research shows about where impulse purchases actually happen. 88% of Americans have at least one shopping app on their phone. 50% have more than 4. And the average American spent 6.6 billion collective hours on shopping apps in 2025 alone. Here's how the shopping banking app loop works in practice. You get a banking app notification. Transaction posted, $12.50. You open the app. While you're in your phone, you check your balance. Balance seems okay. You unlock a sense of financial permission. You switch to Amazon. You see a deal of the day. You buy it. You just spent $47 because a $12.50 coffee notification opened a door. 40% of all online spending now comes from impulse purchases. Not need, not planning, impulse. And that percentage is highest among people who shop on their phones rather than on a computer. Because the phone is where all the notifications live. The phone is the impulse spending machine. Now add your banking app to that phone ecosystem. Every time you open the banking app and see your balance, you've just been reminded of how much money exists. That reminder feeds directly into spending permission. Remove the banking app, and you remove one of the most powerful impulse spending triggers from your phone. Millennials are the biggest impulse spenders, with an estimated annual impulse spend of $4,200. Gen Z makes impulse purchases the most frequently. Both generations grew up with smartphones and banking apps. The correlation isn't perfect, but it's not nothing.
So if not the app, then what? Here's the system that financial therapists, behavioral economists, and people who have actually achieved financial stability use. It has 3 parts: automated systems, scheduled reviews, and goal-based tracking. Not apps, systems. Part 1. Automate everything you can so your finances run without you needing to watch. Auto-pay your bills. Auto-transfer to savings on payday, even $25. Auto-invest to your 401k. When the important things happen automatically, you don't need to monitor them. The anxiety comes from uncertainty. Automation kills uncertainty. Part 2. Replace daily app checking with 2 scheduled money dates per week. Pick 2 specific times, maybe Sunday evening and Wednesday morning. These are your only financial check-in moments. Log in on a computer, not your phone. Review your full picture calmly. Make any needed decisions. Close the laptop. Done. Why a computer and not your phone? Because on a computer, you're in a different mental mode. Deliberate, task-focused. You don't get distracted by notifications. You don't accidentally drift to TikTok. You're not doing this while walking down the street. A computer creates intentional context. Phone creates reactive context. Part 3. Track goals, not balances. Instead of watching your checking account number, watch 3 specific goal meters: emergency fund progress, high-interest debt progress, and 1 personal savings goal. You check these twice a week. You make decisions based on whether the goals are moving forward, not based on whether the balance number went up or down today. Here's the math behind this approach. If deleting the banking app reduces your impulse spending by even 20%, which is conservative, that's $676 per year saved. Over 10 years, at 7% investment return in a simple index fund, that $676 per year becomes $9,300. 1 app deletion, nearly $10,000. Now, let me address the objections, because this is where most finance videos get dishonest. Objection 1. But I need the app for fraud protection. What if something goes wrong? Valid concern. Here's the answer. Turn on email notifications for transactions. You'll still get real-time fraud alerts, but you won't be pulled into the app ecosystem every time. Email is a lower stimulus environment than the app. Objection 2. But I need to transfer money, pay people, use Zelle. Also valid. You don't need to delete your bank's entire digital presence. You keep the web login. You can use Zelle or Venmo as standalone apps. The problem isn't all financial technology. It's the comprehensive banking app that bundles spending visibility, upselling, and constant checking temptation into one addictive package. Objection 3. This won't work. My problem is income, not spending behavior. This is the most emotionally understandable objection, and the most statistically inaccurate one. Because the research shows that Americans across all income brackets overspend due to impulse buying. Impulse buying is as common among $80,000 per year earners as among $40,000 per year earners. The problem scales with income. And the final objection. I've tried budgeting apps. They don't work for me. That's actually this video's entire point. Standard budgeting apps keep you in the same reactive, app-dependent loop. What we're proposing isn't a better app. It's removing the app dependency entirely and replacing it with a system that works with your psychology instead of exploiting it. Here is the honest summary of everything we covered. Your banking app was designed to be used often. Frequent use creates financial anxiety, loosens spending inhibition, and feeds impulse buying. Deleting or restricting it reduces anxiety within 72 hours, reintroduces the friction that prevents impulse spending, and shifts your relationship with money from reactive to intentional. The one action to take from this video? This week, delete your main banking app. Set up email transaction alerts for security. Pick 2 days for your weekly money review, on a computer, not a phone. Write down 3 financial goals, not a balance target, actual goals, and see what happens in 30 days. Not to your balance, to your stress level. The banks built the app to keep you anxious and spending.
You built nothing that says you have to use it. Share this video with someone who checks their balance too many times a day and looks stressed every time they do. They probably already know something is wrong. Now they'll know what. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video.